Hi, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Boss Up with Kaimedi Sample. Now, today we're going to be talking about. What are we going to be talking about? Oh, there we go. Today we're going to be talking about choosing the right place to study. Now, it's no secret, many of us wish that we could go and study abroad, see new exciting places, make new friends, but how many of us actually know how to begin? Where do you go? What factors what factors do we need to consider, and how we can get the best experience out of our studying abroad? Now, stay tuned and I'll be sure to give you some exciting tips on how we can do that. Alright, now the first thing you definitely need to consider is language. What kind of language do you want to study in? Do you want to study in English? Do you want to study in French? Now, predominantly over the years, the top 3 countries where you can study in English have always been the US, the UK and Australia. Now, over time, we have had new countries coming to the board as well, where we have, let's say, Singapore, China. Now, tip number 2 is about the style of education that you prefer. Some of us, we like to be spoon-fed, which is totally fine. There are certain regions where you have a lot of teacher contact and most of the stuff, they're predetermined and there is compulsory attendance of class. In some other regions, there's a lot more independence. This is where now the teachers only give you the minimum and then most of your teachings are actually self-taught. Some people find this a bit harder to manage, and others, they enjoy the independent study, so then they thrive a lot better. Or you can have the best of both worlds. In particular, in the UK, I know they stress a lot more on independent learning. In the US in particular, it's a bit different. There's a lot of interaction that you'll be having with your teachers, compulsory attendance in classrooms. Now, other people can enjoy the best of both worlds. Now, for instance, in Australia, there's a good balance of independent learning as well as, teacher interaction, which is compulsory. The third one, it's a little bit outside your control, is visa requirement. Now, to put it bluntly, you simply cannot just leave your country and go and study at a different country without having obtained the visa to be in that country. So many factors which you need to consider. The top 3 is essentially 1, your citizenship, and also where you are going. So each country will have its own set of visa requirement. Some of them are a bit more strict than others, and some of them are more lenient, but it's a very necessary process to undergo. And then lastly, the university requirements. So each university would have a set of requirements that would also factor in your visa application. So for instance, it could be about you having obtained a certain or having demonstrated a certain proficiency in English. So if you're going to an English speaking school. Let's start now looking at the universities. Now, it is a factor that you definitely need to consider: the pricing, the study fees. Guys, I cannot tell you this. America, expensive. Those universities is ridiculous to me. Some of the top institutions can go to like $80,000 US a year. It is no joke. And luckily, that's why we have the top achiever scholarship programs. We have numerous scholarships available. I will be talking about how you can acquire, how you can actually get a scholarship in the next coming episodes. So stay tuned for that one. But there are other universities which are relatively cheaper in different countries. In the UK, even as much as it's a bit steep, it's a lot cheaper than the US. In Russia as well, some of the universities that are more manageable, more affordable. Standards of living at that particular university and in that particular country is absolutely important. Some universities are expensive. Guys, in Switzerland, some of them go to like 100 and something thousand, so it's definitely something you will be considering. Now on to the other tip. It's about life after university. And some of you may even think about life during university or during your studies, which is essentially the job prospect. What opportunities are there for employment in that particular country, and what opportunities can the school help you to find as well whilst and after you finish your studies? So it's absolutely important to consider this. Some countries actually within their visa requirement, they do not allow you to remain in the country once you have finished studying. Now, an example will be the UK. Before, they have a new regulation now which is so unfair when you think about it. Sorry. Because while I was studying, it was never there. So international students, while I was studying, you definitely needed to go back. If you wanted to remain, companies themselves needed to sponsor you with a work visa. So it was very difficult if you're looking to remain in the country after you finish. That's not the case in some countries like Canada, where I think you're given a 3-year visa after you have finished your studies. So this actually allows you to find other opportunities. It allows you to find work there. So it's definitely something to think about. And the prospect of how easy it is to find jobs. It's not always easy in some countries. It's relatively easier in others. But it's interesting when I'm talking about this question. I know for a fact we will be discussing of whether to go back home, whether to return, or to stay. Now I'm going to table that particular discussion for a different episode because it is quite huge. There's so many factors to consider. I've had so many people ask me why Nike decided to come back. I will discuss on that, and also just elaborate how has life been when I'm back. So that's something for a different episode. Stay tuned on that one. Okay, now the last tip is essentially culture shock. Now, culture shock has a lot of considerations. It's pretty much that sense of unease, that sense of discomfort when you move from one country to the next, or when you move from one place to another again, where there's a difference in culture altogether. Now, we are going to be doing an episode based on culture shock extensively. There might be other countries where it's a lot more difficult in order for you to integrate. So we'll be speaking about the different cultures, how you can manage that, what culture shock essentially is, how you can deal with homesickness in a different episode, but it is definitely something that's worth considering. With that being said, there are countries that it's a lot easier to socialize. Predominantly, you can look at that by looking at the countries where they receive the most international students, We are now at the end of a fantastic episode of factors to consider when choosing where to study abroad. Now, the first one we've mentioned is the language of study. Absolutely important. Second, the style of education. The third, also quite the most important one, in my opinion, the student visa requirements. Fourth one is definitely your university entry requirements. Fifth one is the study fees. Guys, some universities are expensive. You need to decide how and where you're going to be paying for that moolah. The sixth one is definitely job prospects. Life after university and at times during university. Some countries, as I've mentioned, they're more lenient with their international students that allow you to stay. Others, they just say, we got your money now. Out. And then the last one is definitely culture shock. It's something that you don't want to be talking about, but we know this. Some countries, it's a lot more difficult to integrate, so you need to be aware of such things as racism and whatnot. So yeah, in a nutshell, make the right decision, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much for watching that video. There are more to see. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Boss up with Kaide Disciple. Now, do it now. I'm watching. See you next time.